The blizzard raged, a white fury swallowing the remote Montana landscape. A car, helpless against the onslaught, died on the icy highway. Stranded, its occupant faced a terrifying night. Then, a quiet community spine surgeon, a man whose hands bore the faint lines of an old, untold history, braved the storm. But when he saw the document that unexpectedly surfaced from her wallet, his scarred hands began to tremble, and a tremor ran through the silence of his practiced composure. By morning, something from a veteran's past would land just outside his secluded practice. For decades, the Walker Spine Clinic had been the last bastion of medical care before 30 miles of nothingness on Route 16. Adrian "Ace" Walker, a man of 68, a former Navy Special Operations commander, had returned from service with a face subtly reconstructed, a testament to old injuries he rarely spoke of. Most locals were too polite to inquire, simply accepting the soft-spoken surgeon with his steady gaze, grateful for his honest care and willingness to assist stranded motorists, or patients, day or night. The clinic had been his father's, and Adrian had slipped into the role like a well-worn uniform, a quiet sanctuary from the echoes of a past he tried to outrun. Most days, Adrian could almost convince himself this life of quiet healing had always been his, that the nightmares of desert heat and strategic maneuvers were just bad dreams, not indelible memories. Tonight, however, winter descended early upon northern Montana, unleashing the season's first truly brutal blizzard. Snow fell in thick curtains, transforming the familiar world into something alien and hostile. Adrian was just about to close the clinic when the emergency line buzzed. "Walker Spine," he answered, already reaching for his heavy winter coat, a sense of urgency prickling him. "Please, help," a woman's voice came through, tight with barely controlled panic. "My car just died about 5 miles east of town. I'm completely stuck in the storm." "I'll be there in 20, Adrian said, his voice calm and authoritative, honed by years of making swift decisions under pressure. "Stay in your vehicle. Run the engine for 10 minutes every half hour to keep warm." "Any landmarks nearby?" "A big billboard for Pine Valley Resort," she replied. "Got it. Hang tight." Adrian fired up his heavy-duty, modified off-road vehicle, its tires already fitted with chains. The wipers struggled against the relentless snow as he navigated the increasingly hazardous roads. The Weather Service had warned this storm could drop 2 feet by morning. Anyone stranded out here faced serious danger. The off-road vehicle's powerful headlights pierced the swirling white, catching the reflective paint of the Pine Valley billboard. Just beyond it, the faint, desperate hazard lights of a sedan blinked weakly through the snow. Adrian pulled alongside and stepped out into the biting wind, snow immediately working its way down his collar. The driver's window rolled down, revealing a woman in her 40s with composed features. Her face was calm, but Adrian recognized the look in her eyes, controlled fear, the kind that settles in when facing an imminent threat, a refusal to show panic. "Car just died," he called over the howling wind. She nodded. "Completely. No warning, nothing." "Let me take a look." "You should wait in my truck. Heaters running." She hesitated only briefly before grabbing a backpack and making a dash for the passenger side. Adrian popped the hood of her sedan, aiming his powerful flashlight into the engine compartment. Even in these brutal conditions, he could tell this wasn't a simple fix. The engine's main belt had snapped, likely causing cascading damage. This car wasn't going anywhere tonight. Back in Adrian's vehicle, the woman had her hands pressed against the heating vents, her shoulders rigid with tension. Yet, her face remained calm, the disciplined composure of someone trained to handle high-stakes emergencies. "Main belt's gone," Adrian informed her, his voice steady. "It's a major repair. We'll need to tow it back to the clinic." He extended a hand. "I'm Adrian Walker." "Anna Reed," she replied, a faint smile touching her lips. "Thanks for coming out in this. I was beginning to think I'd be spending the night out here." Adrian put the vehicle in gear. "Not a good night for that. Temperatures are dropping fast." As they drove, Adrian noticed her precise movements, the almost instinctive way she scanned their surroundings, her habit of checking her watch. All were military traits he recognized from his own time in service, years ago. "Just passing through?" he asked. "Heading to Helena for a job interview," she said. "Should have checked the weather more carefully before setting out." "Montana storms come quick this time of year," Adrian observed. Anna nodded, then looked out the window at the worsening conditions, a subtle tension still in her jaw. "Any hotels in town?" she asked. "Just Pine Valley Motel. Nothing fancy, but it's clean. I know the owner. They'll have a room even without a reservation." Back at the clinic, Adrian worked efficiently to get her car into the service bay attached to the building. Anna stood to the side, watching his movements with a professional eye that seemed to catch every detail of his careful method. "Can I see some ID for the paperwork?" Adrian asked, reaching for his clipboard. Anna opened her wallet and handed him her driver's license. As he wrote down the information, a second card slipped out, falling quietly to the floor. Adrian picked it up automatically, then froze. The name on the card read, Anna M. Reed, Special Agent, Department of Homeland Security. His hands began to tremble. Memories crashed over him like a sudden explosion. The searing pain, the taste of dust and metal, the struggle to breathe through a shattered ribcage. And above him, a federal agent working frantically to keep him alive, her voice steady amid the chaos. "Stay with me, Commander. Not letting you check out on my watch." The small, tarnished federal agent's badge. She'd pressed it into his hand before the medevac took him away. "Return this when you're back on your feet, Walker." That's an order. That same badge now hung around his neck beneath his shirt, where it had remained every day for the last 2 decades. "Something wrong?" Anna asked, her voice sharp with sudden awareness, noticing his reaction. Adrian swallowed hard, forcing his voice to remain steady. "Just Homeland Security. I was in a tough situation once. A long time ago. A federal agent helped me." Anna's expression shifted subtly, a flicker of recognition, then confusion. "I was there too. Many times." Adrian handed back her documents, careful not to stare at her too long. She wouldn't recognize him. Not with his rebuilt face, the titanium plates beneath his skin, the carefully reconstructed features that resembled his old self but weren't quite right, like a painting that captured the essence but missed the crucial details. "Your car needs serious work," he said, trying to sound normal. "Parts won't come until after the storm, probably looking at 3 days minimum." Anna sighed, a sound of profound frustration. "Perfect timing. My interview's in 2 days. I can give you a ride to Helena when the road's clear," Adrian offered, a quiet determination in his tone. "It should be passable by tomorrow afternoon if the forecast holds." "I appreciate that." Anna glanced at her watch again. "Guess I should get to that motel before the storm gets worse." Adrian nodded. "I'll drive you. Just need to lock up." As they headed to the motel, the storm intensified, snow swirling around the vehicle in white vortices that made it nearly impossible to see the road. Adrian drove with the focused concentration of someone used to navigating difficult conditions, both environmental and personal. "You mentioned a tough situation," Anna asked suddenly. "When was that?" "Roughly 20 years ago," Adrian replied. "A covert operation. Went sideways." Anna was quiet for a moment. "I was on many. Field ops. The worst ones stick with you." Adrian's knuckles whitened on the steering wheel. He knew exactly what she meant. The Pine Valley Motel appeared through the curtain of snow. Adrian parked as close to the office as possible. "I'll make sure they've got a room," he said. 10 minutes later, Anna was checked in. "Breakfast starts at 6, he told her. "I'll come by around noon tomorrow to check on road conditions." "Thank you," Anna said, genuine gratitude in her voice. "For everything." Adrian nodded and turned to leave. "Walker," she called after him. He froze. "Stay safe driving back." "Will do, Agent," he replied automatically, then cursed himself silently for the slip as he headed back to his vehicle. That night, Adrian barely slept. The storm raged outside his small apartment above the clinic, but the real turbulence was in his mind. Should he tell her? He pulled out the federal agent's badge he'd carried for 2 decades, running his thumb over the tarnished metal. Morning brought clear skies, but roads buried under nearly 2 feet of snow. Helena was still unreachable. Adrian was opening the clinic when his phone rang. Walker's spine. "Adrian, it's Anna Reed. Just checking on the roads to Helena." "Still closed," he replied. "Highway department says late afternoon at the earliest." Anna sighed. "I've tried rescheduling my interview, but they're not being flexible. I might lose my shot at this job." "What kind of job?" Adrian asked. "Homeland Security. Emergency protocols. It would be my first operational position since I lost my clearance." The admission surprised him. "Lost your clearance?" Another pause. "It's a long story. Involves a critical mission, a panic attack during a high-stakes scenario, and a review board with no sympathy for PTSD." Adrian's chest tightened. He knew all too well how the battlefield, or the covert operation, could follow you home, ambush you when you least expected it. "I'm heading to Miller's Diner for lunch," he said. "Best food in town. I could pick you up if you want to get out of that room for a while." 30 minutes later, they sat in a booth at Miller's, the diner surprisingly busy. Betty Miller herself brought their coffee. "Friend of yours, Adrian?" she asked. "Client," Adrian replied. "Vehicle trouble." Betty nodded sympathetically. "Picked the wrong day to break down, honey. But you're in good hands with Adrian. Best spine specialist in 3 counties." After she left, Anna studied him over her coffee. "Not much for conversation, are you?" Adrian shrugged. "Never been good with words." "Special ops rarely are," she replied with a small smile. They ate in comfortable silence, the kind that develops between people who understand that some experiences don't need to be articulated to be shared. When they finished, Anna seemed reluctant to return to her motel room. "Your clinic's open today?" she asked. "Wouldn't mind seeing what you're dealing with on my car." Back at the clinic, Anna watched as Adrian began the process of removing her vehicle's damaged engine components. Her extensive training in high-pressure situations made her appreciate his methodical approach, despite hands marked by old injuries. "Those scars," she said suddenly. "Old injuries," Adrian paused, then nodded. "A complex extraction. Roughly 20 years ago." "Where?" Anna went very still. "A remote location. Not in the public records." Anna's face paled. "I was stationed at a field command post then. Mid-year." "It was August 15th, Adrian said quietly. "That's when I got hit." Recognition flickered in her eyes, but then confusion. "You treat a lot of complicated cases?" he asked. "Too many," she admitted. "Why?" Adrian set down his tools and straightened up. "You saved one commander's life. He was trapped, shrapnel had torn apart half his body. Field medics had given up on him, but you refused to. You worked on him for 7 hours." Anna's face paled further. "How could you possibly know that?" Adrian reached beneath his collar and pulled out the tarnished federal agent's badge. "Because you gave him this. Told him to return it when he was back on his feet." His voice grew quiet, almost a whisper. "That was me, Agent Reed." Anna stared at the badge, then at his face. Her medical and tactical training allowed her to see past the reconstruction. "Commander Walker," she whispered. "They told me you died during evac." Adrian shook his head. "Came close. Woke up 2 weeks later in a secure facility. Spent the next 2 years in and out of surgery. He gestured to his face. New model, but same engine underneath. Anna reached out tentatively, her fingers stopping just short of touching his scarred cheek. I've thought about you for years. You were the one that broke me. Broke you. Her hand fell away. After they told me you died, something changed. I started second-guessing every decision. Became obsessed with the idea I'd missed something, done something wrong. She looked down. 3 years later, I froze during a critical mission back home. Civilian lives were at stake. Review board pulled my clearance. Adrian felt a wave of guilt. I'm sorry. If I'd known they told you I died. It wasn't your fault, Anna interrupted. The system failed both of us. They stood in silence. Two survivors connected by a single violent day, separated by decades, yet bound by the indelible mark of shared trauma. Neither could forget. You kept my badge all this time, she finally asked. Adrian nodded. Reminded me I got a second chance. That someone fought for me when others gave up. Anna's professional composure cracked. Tears welled in her eyes. I needed to hear that, especially now. Your interview in Helena, Adrian said, his voice gentle. It's for getting your clearance reinstated. Probationary position. Last chance to prove you can still operate. She wiped her eyes. And I'm going to miss it because of this storm. Adrian thought for a moment, a plan already forming in his mind. Maybe not. Let me make a call. He stepped outside, phone pressed to his ear. Anna could see him talking intently. When he returned, there was new determination in his expression. Pack your things, he said. We leave in 30 minutes. The roads. Not taking roads. Friend of mine, a retired Special Forces commander, flies search and rescue. A military helicopter can get you to Helena in under an hour. Her eyes widened. You do that for me? You saved my life, Agent, Adrian replied. Least I can do is return the favor. 2 hours later, Anna was in Helena with more than enough time to prepare for her interview. Adrian returned to his clinic, the quiet settling around him like the newly fallen snow outside. He'd given her his number, told her to call when she was done, but he didn't expect to hear from her again. People moved on. That's how life worked. That evening, as he was closing up, his phone rang. Got the job, Anna's voice came through, triumph mixed with disbelief. A 6-month probationary period, but it's a start. Congratulations, Agent Reed. You earned it. I'm staying in Helena tonight, but I'll need a ride back to get my vehicle tomorrow. And Adrian, thank you. For everything. Just returning the favor, he said. After they hung up, Adrian sat in the quiet clinic, feeling something he hadn't experienced in years, purpose beyond just getting through each day. The next morning, Adrian drove to Helena to pick up Anna. The 4-hour round trip gave them time to really talk about the covert operations, about their struggles afterward, about finding meaning in civilian life after years of high-stakes service. By the time they returned to his clinic, a strange sort of friendship had formed, built on shared trauma and mutual respect. Should have your vehicle ready by Thursday, Adrian told her as they pulled up, assuming the parts arrived tomorrow. No rush, Anna replied. I don't start for 2 weeks. Thought I might stick around, get to know the area better. She hesitated, then added softly, if there's a decent place to stay. Adrian heard himself say, my father's old house is sitting empty. I've been meaning to rent it out. It's nothing special, but it's furnished. For the next week, Anna became a fixture at the clinic. She brought lunch, asked questions about the repairs, even handed him tools occasionally. The locals noticed, of course, in a town that small, nothing went unremarked. Betty from the diner winked at him whenever he came in, and old man Peterson actually slapped him on the back and said, "About time, son." But it wasn't like that. They were two people who understood each other's wounds, who didn't need to explain the nightmares or the hypervigilance or the way certain sounds made their hearts race. Being around Anna made Adrian feel normal for the first time in years. Friday evening, as they sat on his porch watching the sunset, Anna asked the question he'd been dreading. "Why didn't you tell me who you were right away?" Adrian considered his answer carefully. "Wasn't sure you'd remember me. And if you did, wasn't sure I wanted to be someone's bad memory." Anna shook her head. "You were never the bad memory, Adrian. Believing I failed you, that was the bad memory. You didn't fail. I'm sitting right here because of you." "And I'm sitting here because of you," she replied. Funny how things work out. The weekend passed quietly. They shared meals, swapped stories, and gradually filled in the 2-decade gap in their connected lives. "I start at Helena General in 9 days, Anna said finally. "It's only an hour's drive from here." Adrian nodded, understanding what she wasn't saying. "My father's house needs a tenant," he replied. "Long term. If you're interested." Anna smiled. "I might be." Throughout the weekend, Adrian noticed Anna making several hushed phone calls, stepping outside when her phone rang with no caller ID. When he asked, she'd simply say, "Just tying up loose ends." Sunday evening, as they shared dinner at the local diner, Betty Miller stopped by their table, excitement barely contained. "Adrian Walker, what on earth is going on? Sheriff just told me government vehicles have been asking directions to your clinic. Said they had government plates, military types." Adrian looked at Anna, who suddenly seemed very interested in her coffee. "No idea," he replied, though a strange tension had settled between his shoulder blades, the old combat awareness he hadn't felt in years. That night, he caught Anna sending emails with attachments labeled Walker Commander Rescue Ops. She closed her laptop when she noticed him. "Everything okay?" he asked. "Better than okay," she replied, a mysterious smile playing on her lips. "You'll see." Monday morning dawned clear and cold. Adrian was opening the clinic when he felt at first, a rhythmic vibration that traveled up through the concrete floor and into the soles of his boots. A sensation he hadn't experienced in decades, but would never forget. The distinctive thwomp 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 of heavy rotor blades cutting through the air. Not just any helicopter, a military transport helicopter. Adrian stepped outside, a mixture of confusion and instinctive alertness washing over him. The sound grew louder, echoing off the distant mountains. Then he saw it, the unmistakable silhouette against the morning sky, heading directly toward his clinic. The military transport helicopter circled once, then settled with a powerful downdraft in the empty field across from his clinic. Even more surprising were the 3 government vehicles that pulled up just as the helicopter touched down. Men and women in special forces dress uniforms began to emerge. First a handful, then a dozen, then more. They formed into neat rows, standing at attention as an older officer with a chest full of ribbons and commendations walked purposefully toward Adrian. "Commander Walker," the officer called, his voice booming with authority. "Yes, sir," Adrian replied automatically, his body instinctively straightening to a parade rest. "General Michael Hayes," the officer introduced himself, extending a gloved hand. "Your old unit. We've been looking for you for quite some time." Adrian shook his hand, his mind reeling. "I don't understand, sir." "Agent Reed contacted us," the general explained, a smile touching his lips. "Told us she'd found the commander everyone assumed had died en route to the secure facility after that Incident Red 7 operation." The general's gaze swept over the assembled personnel. "We don't leave our people behind, Walker. Not even the ones who disappear into civilian life." By now, nearly 50 Special Forces personnel stood at attention in front of the clinic. Adrian noticed Anna standing off to the side, watching with a mix of emotion, satisfaction, relief, and a hint of something unreadable. "What is all this?" Adrian asked, his voice barely a whisper. "This is long overdue, Commander," General Hayes said, producing a small velvet box from his pocket. "The Supreme Commander's Medal of Honor you never officially received." He held up a second, larger box. "And this, Commander, is the Valor Service Award that was posthumously awarded. Seems we need to correct the record." Adrian stared at the medals, speechless. "The official ceremony was this afternoon. Your fellow Special Forces insisted on being here," the general continued. "Some traveled from across the country overnight." Adrian looked at the assembled personnel, recognizing a few faces despite the years. These were his brothers and sisters in arms, the people he thought he'd left behind. "I don't know what to say." "You don't need to say anything, Commander," the general replied, his gaze firm and respectful. "Just know that what you did that day during Operation Red 7, dragging 3 wounded Special Operations personnel to safety after you'd been hit, securing the intel, it wasn't forgotten. And neither were you." The small town came to a standstill that afternoon. Everyone closed their businesses to witness the ceremony in the town square. Adrian stood uncomfortably in his old dress uniform, still a perfect fit after all these years, as General Hayes recounted his actions from the classified operation. After the explosion, the general's voice resonated across the square. Despite catastrophic injuries to his face, chest, and legs, Commander Walker returned to the compromised zone 3 times, extracting wounded personnel while under enemy fire, securing vital intelligence. Only after confirming all his team were clear, did he finally allow medics to treat him. By then, he had lost over 40% of his blood volume. Adrian hadn't remembered it that way. In his nightmares, he was always too slow, too late. But as he looked at the 3 Special Operations personnel standing in the front row, the men he'd pulled out that day, he realized that some memories could be rewritten. After pinning on the medals, General Hayes stepped back. Commander Walker didn't just save lives that day. According to Special Agent Anna Reed, who treated him at the field command post, his actions inspired her to develop new crisis intervention protocols for high-stress situations that have since saved dozens more lives. Anna stepped forward then, no longer in civilian clothes, but in her Homeland Security dress uniform, her agent's badge gleaming in the sunlight. "Commander Walker didn't know it," she said, addressing the crowd, her voice clear and strong. "But his case became the foundation for my research in operational trauma management. The techniques we pioneered while treating him are now standard protocol in high-risk environments worldwide." She turned to face Adrian directly, her eyes shining. "You never stopped saving lives, Commander. Even when you thought you were just a spine surgeon in Montana." That evening, after the Special Operations personnel had returned to their base and the town had finally stopped taking pictures and shaking his hand, Adrian and Anna sat alone on his porch again. The medals sat on the small table between them, still in their velvet cases, catching the fading light. "Why did you do it?" Adrian asked, his voice soft, the weight of the day settling over him. "Contact my old unit. Arrange all this." Anna looked out at the darkening sky, a peaceful expression on her face. "Because 20 years ago, they told me I'd failed to save you, that my most critical patient had died despite everything I'd done." She met his eyes, her gaze steady. "Finding out you were alive, that I hadn't failed, it gave me back something I thought I'd lost forever, my confidence as a special agent. My purpose." "My purpose," she corrected herself, a faint smile on her lips. "Same as you gave these people today." She gestured toward the quiet town, where lights were beginning to twinkle. They never knew who was really living among them. A hero who thought he was just a spine surgeon. Adrian shook his head, a characteristic gesture of humility. "I'm not." "Don't say you're not a hero," Anna interrupted gently, her voice firm. "I've sewn enough of them back together to know one when I see one." They sat in comfortable silence as stars began to appear overhead, vast and unwavering in the clear Montana sky. "I start at Helena General in 9 days, Anna said finally, breaking the quiet. "It's only an hour's drive from here." Adrian nodded, understanding what she wasn't saying. My father's house needs a tenant, he replied. Long term. If you're interested, it's furnished and close enough. Anna smiled, a genuine, warm smile. I might be. The next morning, Adrian opened the clinic to find a line of vehicles waiting for service, more than he'd seen in years. Word had spread like wildfire about the highly decorated Special Operations Commander now running a local spine clinic, and suddenly everyone wanted their aches and pains addressed by him. As he began working on the first vehicle, he caught sight of Anna watching from the doorway of the office, coffee in hand, a look of profound satisfaction on her face. Some wounds never fully heal. Some battles never really end. But sometimes, finding the right person to fight alongside you makes all the difference. And sometimes the most important rescue happens years after the battlefield is left behind, revealing a quiet hero in plain sight. Love this story? Hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more. Don't forget to share your thoughts on the respect our veterans deserve in the comments below. Comment respect. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.